My name's Phil Briggs. I'm a cinematographer based out of Northern California. I've been doing this for just over 10 years, and being in the heart of Silicon Valley, I work for companies such as Apple, Adobe, Google, but my true passion is in narrative filmmaking. So the presentation today, we're going to focus on color filtration on lights and how to effectively use it and creatively use it. So let's get to it.
This year's Big League Cine Summit is brought to you by Planet 5D, Cinovate, DSLR Video Shooter, JAG 35, and Create Insights.
Okay, welcome everybody. We got an awesome session today with Philip Briggs. He's really bringing to us today something that I think a lot of people are not utilizing very much. I know I myself have not dove into working with gels as much as I probably could. So I'm really looking forward to this. And Philip, say hello to everybody and welcome aboard.
Hi, everybody.
All right, we're basically, I got a sneak peek of this, so I'm really dying to have you dig into it, because it seems like something that if people are not aware of a lot of these tools and techniques that you're going to take us through, they're just simply missing out on a huge asset. So I'm going to let you take over and let us know what we have in store for us.
Thanks a lot, Aviv. I decided to approach this because this subject matter because I really enjoy using gels on set, and I notice a lot of times people kind of shy away from using gels, especially colored gels. Same thing with kind of filtration. People sometimes, cinematographers are sometimes a bit afraid to commit to a look. But, that's what we're in it for, is to create something that's, that fits, of course, the material that we're doing, but to be creative. So anyway.
Before you start, Philip, I would just want to mention one thing that I've heard constantly with a lot of the cinematographers that I've been coming across through the blog and through the Cine Summit, is they're always saying that they're trying to get their look in camera for many reasons, and one of the main reasons is they don't want somebody in post completely making a different film than what they're trying to make.
I completely agree. That's one of the things, especially in today's age, where production companies don't want to pay for a DP or cinematographer to sit in a color correction session. They just want to hand it off to a colorist, and maybe the director comes by or whatever. Any way that you're able to get that look on set, I find it gratifying, and knowing that I'm going to give them something good, so they don't have to let their imagination run wild on what they could do. I'm going to give them something good in the first place. I completely agree.
And wouldn't you also say that there's only so much you can do in post anyways? In other words, it's such an uphill battle to get certain things to be certain colors. You might as well do it correctly from the get-go.
Yeah, well, if you do it from the get-go, you can infuse, whatever greens into your dark areas, or yellows into your highlights. You can start to do those things on set, and if for some reason they're a little too much, you can back them off in post. But you can do a lot in post, but it takes time and it takes money, and you're sitting there with sometimes lots of opinions when everybody else is busy on set, and you're making decisions with the director and what he wants. But you can go ahead and dial in something that's going to look killer. Instead of hoping that you get to have your 100% say when you get to color correction or whatever.
Awesome.
So, but that's why I said I titled this presentation "Getting Your Look on Set Using Gels," and that's just it. It's just so that you don't have to wait until post to color your film.
Sweet, I'm ready to go.
Great. All right, cool. Well, that's one of the great things about being a cinematographer, is that you get to make an audience feel something subconsciously through the environment you help to create with light and color. being a cinematographer and being able to help tell stories of course, that the director wants to tell is, I mean, I don't know if there's anything better out there. I mean, we get to. I know it sounds very cliche, but we get to paint these pictures, and we get to help create the mood of the environment that these characters are living in, and I find it absolutely fascinating. It's my favorite thing I get to do. Very fortunate to do this for a living. Uh, so anyway, let's move on to the next one. I basically just want to take everybody through what I'm sure most cinematographers, most of you guys already know, but I figured we'd start at ground zero and then kind of work our way up with just kind of the basics. You have the three main elements of lighting. At least the way that I see it is contrast. Your contrast ratios, whether you're going to go 2-to-1 or 10-to-1 or whatever. Your quality of light, and the quality of light is basically, are you using soft light or using hard light? But once again, my favorite part is the color part. Of working with a production designer and the director and coming up with whatever color palette fits the commercial or fits the narrative. So we're gonna talk about color today, not the other two. Um, in saying that, I've got pictures here of Lee filters, Roscoe, and of course the Cine Joe Roscoe. And those are our crayons that we're going to be talking about. But like I said, starting at ground zero, we have to have we have to understand what light is. It's important to remember that filtration is a subtractive process. Filters can only transmit or block frequencies of light, not add to the source. Understand that you're not adding to anything because light has all the color in it. Basically, you're manipulating the light in order to give you the color to let the color through the gel that you want to appear on set. I mean, is that super important to understand that? You can pick out your gels and put them on light and go, oh, well, I like blue and whatever. But I think having a basic understanding of what white light is and what exists in white light, I think fundamentally is important. I mean, you have to know that the entire color spectrum, sorry about that. With white light, it's made up of the entire color spectrum. So gels and filters, once again, only block or let certain colors through.
Yeah, that's definitely a totally different understanding of probably what most think is going on. You put on a filter and you're using that color as opposed to taking away certain color and and leaving the rest.
Yeah. No, it's I find it fascinating. So finding the filters you need to achieve correction. So firstly, there are going to be 4 steps here. Firstly, it's establish the reference. So usually this is the predominant source in the scene, and it's treated as your reference source. Usually it's 3200K tungsten or 5500 daylight. And sometimes you can end up in environments with 4,000. I mean, you can get them across the spectrum. But basically, when I walk onto a location, I go, "Oh, are there big windows in this location? If so, that tells me more than likely it's going to be my reference is going to be 5,500. Or if I'm in a house at nighttime, and I've got a ton of practicals." In the room, I know that more than likely it's going to be 3,200, and so that's probably going to be my base.
So what you're saying is that there will be a mix of light, most likely. I mean, often that's the case, and you just have to figure out which one is like you wrote here, predominant. Which one is the main one, so that you can set your camera and then start to tweak the rest.
Exactly, and well, set your expectations of how you're going to color correct all your supplemental lights, or what kind of supplemental lights you're going to use. So it's just coming up with, it's coming up with your standard for how your day is going to run and what you're going to use. And yeah, sometimes you have, the mixed lighting, but you want to go with, more than likely, you want to go with what the predominant one is. And times you end up with like 4,000K, or right around there when you end up in a convenience store or something that's using fluorescence. And unless you're going to replace those, which we all know, trying to get onto a location and replace all the fluorescents in a store, it can be really, really challenging and difficult unless you have a pre-light or a really big crew.
So what's the first thing you do once you realize that? So once you realize that you're going to be working, let's say, use that example, you're in a store, it's fluorescence, it's about 4,000, and yet you have other practicals that are tungsten, or you got a big window, coming in, and that's giving you the daylight at 55. So do you need to turn the daylight to match the 4,000? Are you trying to match everything to get to whichever one you decide is the predominant light?
Yes, exactly. And that kind of moves on to point two.
Here we go.
It's going to determine the Kelvin and color correction values. So in addition to your reference source, determine the Kelvin temperature of your supplemental light sources. So then you just have to, if I had daylight coming into like big windows and daylight just pouring into a store that had, fluorescence in it, more than likely, I'm going to go with the daylight source that's pouring in. And then I'm going to go around and I'm going to use certain filtration. If I'm looking for clean light, I'm going to go and probably put certain filtration on the fluorescents that are in the store. Or once again, it may be one of those things where I'm like, okay, let's switch them out for daylight bulbs.
So assuming you can't switch them out, you might be getting into this. I'm not sure, but how do you filter out a whole store of of fluorescents that are not matching the daylight?
You get a couple of probably a couple of grips and a couple of PAs, and you get them to start slicing up gels from the truck.
Gotcha. You have to actually physically cover up those lights.
Yeah,
It's not something on the lens that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's if you want to get to zero. You know what I mean? That's that's if you want to get to zero. I mean, there's something about sometimes a different kind of color temperature. I mean, from say fluorescence in a convenience store or something, in contrast with your white light, your daylight that's coming through, that adds kind of the feel of that environment. Maybe it's too much. Maybe you're just going in and you're putting just some minus green on it. And the good thing is a lot of fluorescents, once you get the green out of it, they're at 5,600, or around there. Sometimes they're, it's 4,000 is what it is. But I mean, once you start to kind of get take the green away, then you can kind of start to get clean light.
Yeah.
So the third step is select what your filters are. So determine the appropriate filters for correcting the supplemental sources to your reference source. So that's when you show up on location and, you have a big daylight source coming in and all you've got tungsten lights because that's all the production wanted to pay for. They didn't want to get the HMIs. So you're going to have to get the appropriate gels, which is in this case CTB, to color correct your tungsten lamps. And vice versa. You're in a tungsten environment and you have HMIs. You're going to be using your CTOs or sometimes your CTSs in order to get to zero.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. Usually this is CTO and CTB we'll be using, and with the fluorescence, plus green and minus green,
right.
which I actually, always refer to on set as magenta when I'm talking to my gaffer. So we've worked enough together. He knows I'm talking about minus green.
Awesome.
Lastly, overall correction. Lastly, balance the overall scene to an emulsion reference or video white balance. This can be done with lens filtration, or it can be done in the lab. I've known cinematographers in the past that'll, that are shooting, a tungsten film stock in a daylight environment, and they'll correct it in post, which can be done. And same thing with a lot of your digital cameras today, especially like a red, where you have the raw, and you can just go in and
Yeah.
manipulate your balance as needed. But the easiest way is the easiest way, of course, is know ahead of time in pre-production what you're going to be shooting. Buy the right film stock that's either daylight or tungsten balanced, or if you're shooting digital, get your just your white balance going within the environment once you've leveled out your playing field.
And I don't know if you're going to go into it, but what's your preferred method of getting that white balance accurate?
I learned on film. So I spent my first 5 years shooting 35 and 16. So when I think of balance, I think of 3200 or 55, 5600. So I think in those terms. When people are like, "Oh, white balance it," I go, "Well, like how about I set my, I'm gonna set my." I'm going to set my white balance. I'm not going to electronically like let it find what it is. And I've been forced in a situation that like that on smaller jobs a couple of times when it's a run and gun thing,
Uh-huh.
and that's fine. Where you have to use the auto white balance or whatever, and it's kind of taking the average of all the light around you to try and balance it out. But like I said, starting with film, I think in terms of tungsten film stock or daylight film stock. And that's the way I treat my digital cameras too. And that's how I plan in pre-production. I plan accordingly to that.
So you're saying you just simply set in the camera 32 or 56, and your work in the beginning is to get that scene
Yes.
to equal that.
Yes. And that's, of course, that's if that's, some projects, some productions. I just did a short film in Oakland, and, I really liked kind of some of the warmer, the kind of overall warmer wash. I don't think I was at 3200 on that. I think maybe I was at 3600 or something. Just warming up the overall environment.
Yeah.
Which you can do that with digital now, which is kind of nice. And it took usually hanging around till post with film in order to be able to kind of adjust that to kind of give it that warmer wash.
Right.
But if you like to see it on set, that's you can always mess around with what you're.
And as far as technically achieving it, are you using like a light meter of some sort, or are you using
I use
cards?
Yeah, I use. With white balance, or with trying to
White balance.
yeah, that I just yeah. I always run a color chart so that we know where we're at with the sources that we're using. Because it's funny you say that, because oftentimes if I'm not on the color correction, and I'll set kind of a look, kind of a wash in the camera. I'll get to color correction, and they'll be like, "Oh, we've gone through some stuff, and we kind of got you at 0." And they'll have kind of pushed the wash away and made it look all nice and even. And I'm like, no, 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 I had the wash going. So,
Yeah.
and then we build it back. But yeah, and I'm a big fan of light meters. I learned with a light meter. And I still use a light meter even with digital today. That's the way I see it, and that's the way I work.
So for those who haven't done it, can you give us a quick one sentence of how the process of using the chart to get your white balance, the color chart?
Well, basically, I'll whatever my supplemental sources are, I like to just get over where there's no other light. And whatever I'm lighting with, if it's an HMI, I'll just pull the color chart out, put it in front of the camera, and that will be lighting the color chart in order to give the reference. So then, when I go and I put quarter straw, or I start to put colors onto the lights, then it'll actually, when we go into post, then they balance it to the color chart. Then I'm getting the colors and stuff that I want and had intended when I put them onto the lights, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think some people don't know how the process works. So you basically frame the camera onto the color chart. I just wanted you to walk the people through
Oh,
those
yeah.
steps real quick. So
Yeah, so just stick it on a C-stand, stick your or have your second assistant or whoever hold the color chart. Bring whatever kind of your supplemental source is over. So if you're lighting with HMIs, bring that over. Try to make sure that you're not getting any spill from other sources or whatever to contaminate the chart. And then take a reading, whatever the light that say it's the HMI that you're shining onto the color chart. Get a nice good exposure on it, and then just roll it.
and how do you take that reading?
I use a light meter, so I'll go up and it's one of the things. I mean, if you're using a digital camera, you can whatever you can use a waveform, or you can use
Yeah.
anything to make sure that your exposure is correct. So I
Right.
mean, that's basically all I'm doing with a light meter, is just making sure it's correct.
Right, and then but as far as letting the camera dial in the correct white balance, now that you've shot the chart,
Oh,
how?
understood. Well, I mean, that was what I was saying before. Is I'll have already determined, so like if I'm doing an HMI,
Yeah.
then I'm set at 50, 55 or 56. If I'm using tungsten sources, then I'm set at 3200. That's what I mean in terms of how I'm either starting at one end or I'm starting at the other. Maybe that's from having a past with film, but yeah. So if you're using HMIs, make sure that your color balance is 55 or 5600 in your camera, and then frame the color chart up, throw your HMI on it, and get your correct exposure, and that color chart should look pristine. And then you're going to get true color there, so that when your colorist balances to that, you're going to take it. It's the colors that you end up putting on the lights are going to render
Got it.
correctly.
Right, right, right. Okay, wonderful. Let's move on. Sorry, I didn't want to get us stuck on
No,
that.
no, no worries, no worries.
Okay.
Um, okay, so once you're at zero, we have clean light, and we can start to think about how to add or subtract filtration to get your desired look. So it's like what I was just explaining there is once like your color chart is at zero, and you're shooting at 56, you start to add gels, then you're going to start to get the desired effects, whether you're going warmer or cooler or whatever.
Right.
You're going to be able to get those desired effects on set.
Beautiful.
So let's start with the basics concerning color, and how we'll break down what the scene, and everybody kind of knows with kind of your 3-point lighting what the scene consists of, and what you're able to use, without getting funky skin tones or anything like that. So we'll start with our key. So whatever our large, supplemental light source is, the best thing to do is neutral, cool, and warm. That usually keeps skin tones happy. It's at times when you get into using reds or darker blues and stuff, you kind of start to go a little wacky with people's skin tones, and I mean, I guess it depends on the project. If you want to go wacky, then go wacky. But a general rule of thumb is try and keep those actors or that talent with something that's very flattering, because that's the most important part of your frame, is going to be the talent.
Right. So when you say cooler, warm, tungsten,
Yeah,
HMI.
yeah. So when I'm saying that, I'm saying, maybe with your key light, you're just going to go with some type of diffusion, something that's just going to soften the light up. And if you're like, oh, well, I want it to go a little cool because it's nighttime and we're outside, and I see that there's moonlight that's being cast on that building behind him. That moonlight may be full CTB or something, but that's definitely not something you want on the actor's face. So I go, okay, well, why don't I throw a quarter CTB on them? they'll get a hint of that cool light, but it's not gonna blast them to where they look like a Smurf. They're gonna be happy when they see the dailies, and so will the producer. Um, yeah, and same thing with warm. Maybe it's a nice sunrise, and you kind of want that nice warm light on the actor's face, and you've got to use supplemental lighting. Um, Throwing full straw on their face, may not be the best choice. So I usually the place that I end up being happy is using in the quarter and eighth realm, just to add a little tint in there. And if for some reason that people get into post and they don't like it, that's really easy to get rid of. But once again, you're kind of setting what feels good to you, and giving a little bit of that extra um, that extra feel of the environment onto the actor, so it seems like they're in it. After your key light, you're going to have your back or accent light. This is usually going to come from the side, or it's going to come from the back. But this lighting, you have a little bit more freedom when it comes to adding more saturated colors. And that's I love. This is one of my favorite lights, just because I can, and we'll move on to the background light in a second here, but I can take some funky background light, like whatever, like the fluorescence off of a convenience store or a bar or something, and I can create a nice separation with some kind of color that matches that light, and that's where I feel like I get to be super creative, is with my backlights. I don't know, it sounds kind of funny, but
Is that in terms of color you mean, or
yeah,
just
in terms of color.
so
Uh,
you will go like a completely different color than your key light with your back or accent light sometimes.
Completely.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
yeah, and I'm big about motivating light.
Yeah.
It definitely has to have some kind of motivation. Like if it's whatever, moonlight or a sign or a lamp or whatever. So I always have that, but it's amazing what a good production designer can come up with in terms of practicals, and
Hmm.
it's fun to accentuate those.
Yeah.
And talking about that, background light, same with the background light, it is as it is with the accent light. You have a little bit more freedom in terms of color. And this is where like your practicals exist. Like I was saying, if it's a fluorescent sign, at a bar, or it's just a household lamp that's in a house. Um, you know, this is where you can really, kind of cut loose, because it's going to be, maybe brushing up against the actor's cheek, or it's going to be, but mainly it's just gonna it's going to give you separation and a lot more freedom to play with color.
And you gel sometimes these practicals to get these looks.
Not really. I mean, I'll usually it'll depend on what the production designer has put into the scene,
Hmm.
or just what is exists already in the environment. The times that doesn't apply is like when, say, I have a sodium vapor light, that's we're out on the street, out in front of a building or something, and we never see the sodium vapor light. Um, or maybe we do. Maybe you can tell there's sodium vapor lights that are lining the street, but I want that nice kind of uh, browny yellowish sodium vapor light, and that's what's going to separate the actor out for me. I'm going to put that. I'm going to stick sodium vapor gel on like a 2K, and I'm going to jack it up real high like like a lamp,
Hmm.
and that's what's going to help create that separation from whatever that darkness, or the lights that are far off in the background or whatever. But same thing with moonlight. Like I was saying earlier, if I have moonlight that's scraping up against a building or whatever, and I've got a 9 light or something that's just giving me that kind of brushstroke for the background. Well, I want to feel personally, I want to be able to feel that moonlight separating the actor out from the background instead of just a white light, because it just isn't going to look real. So after the background light, you're gonna have your ambient light, and a lot of cinematographers like to keep this neutral, but this is where I like to add color into my image by infusing color into the darker areas of the image or the brighter. Usually ends up being your separation light can come from your ambient light. So, times I use China balls for this, space lights for this. But basically, it's just bringing up your overall environment if you're not in a situation where the sun is doing that for you. Like I said, a lot of times people like to keep this clean. I love to color that up. I work with students over at a university here in San Francisco, and my sources in terms of color correction are nil. So one of the things that I do is I actually kind of go the extra mile while I'm on those sets in order to get exactly the image that I want while I'm shooting, because I know that I'm never going to be able to touch it in post. So a lot of times my soft boxes that I have hanging on the stages are colored up with steel blue or steel green or quarter straw, whatever it is that I want to kind of infuse a little bit more into the image instead of trying to do a little bit of a wash later on or something. So
That's a huge point that you just said, which I really hope everybody pay attention to this, guys, because he just made a big point. Not all of us are going to be able to take this to, serious post production, and therefore you want to get, you want to get your look in there, because I know a lot of times I do even my own editing or my own post, and I'm not an expert, right? So if I can get it in camera, then that'll get me there.
yeah, and gels are the easiest way to do that. I mean, we all know what it's like to get on set, and we know what it's like to dream in pre-production of what we're going to do and how awesome it's going to be, and then we get on to set and we face the reality of what it really is, and we go, oh man, I just want to make sure that I get my key light going and my backlight going, and then I don't get yelled at by the AD. But using gels and ahead of time in pre-production, understanding what you're going for within the environment, you can plan where you're going to use these gels, and it doesn't take any extra time or effort. And if for some reason it doesn't look right, then pull the gel. Have a couple of other variations that are similar on standby and see what works.
Right. So now this seems like this is the meat of the presentation right here. This ambient light, where you're really going to get that look, that add a little bit of a flavor into the overall look. But what I don't know if you're going to go into it more. How do you get that color, like you said, infusing that color, but just into your darker areas and not somewhere else? Because if it's an ambient light, it's going to be coloring everything. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like say it's China balls, and say I have, I'm just going to bring the ambient light up to where like it's still, 3, 4 stops under, it's just bringing in just a little bit of light into, some of the areas that maybe aren't getting any light at all. So in
I
doing
see.
that, it's not going to register as much on the actors as it
Got it.
is just in the kind of crevices of the image that
Oh, beautiful,
that
beautiful.
aren't yeah, which is great. And most of the time, my ambient light, reflects a lot of times what my backlight and my background light are. So if I have steel green and I'm using that as a moonlight, then more than likely my China balls or my space lights they're going to have steel green on them.
Right.
So it's just that little bit of extra touch
Yeah.
that my background light or my backlight isn't hitting.
Right.
So
Okay, great. So they're kind of working in tandem. Love it.
they are. They are.
Okay, so I think we have next an example. Is that what's coming up?
I believe so. Yes. So this is the beginning of a narrative film that I've done kind of recently. But anyway, I'll play it and we can talk about it afterwards.
Introduce us to it real quick. What do we? Why are you showing this to us? What are we going to see here?
So basically, you're just going to see. Well, one, you're going to see a lot of my favorite color combinations in terms of gels, which I'm excited to talk to you about afterwards, and you're going to see kind of how that ambient light that we were just talking about, how as subtle as it is, how it's made its way into certain areas of the image that maybe you ordinarily wouldn't have, just like a regular clean light doing, except bringing up exposure, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah, very good. I mean, I saw some snippets of this, and it's really a gorgeous piece, guys. You're gonna love this, for the look and to learn about everything that we've discussed. And then, of course, we're gonna break it down, get into it, and get into the real meat of how Phil is going, achieving all this stuff. So it's about a 4-minute piece, right, Phil?
Yes.
Okay, so settle in. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll talk about it.
I feel a presence, he's close. Yet I sense a struggle to cross over. He says someone is obstructing his path. He does not feel safe. Invite him here with me. Daniel, you are welcome. Join us. Daniel, you are welcome. Join us.
Join us. Daniel, you are welcome.
Join us.
Join us.
Daniel, you are welcome. Join us. The spirit has entered the room. Daniel?
Okay, so we just saw that, and I am going to fill you in on what gel combinations I ended up using and why I used them. So, quarter straw. Yeah, first of all, you have Lee and you have Roscoe, and I don't really have a preference. I think I end up using Lee a lot of the time, but it's kind of whichever manufacturer is giving me the color, the crayon that I want. I'm good with as long as I'm getting the desired effect. So, but quarter straw is what I was using on a lot of the actors' faces. When we get into some of the pictures in a second here, I'll kind of start to point some of that stuff out. But for me, it's this, of course, was a period piece. So I kind of like that warmer, that slightly warmer yellowish orange wash, on the actors' faces and kind of in the environment in general. It kind of, for me, reflects a lot of like practicals and it reflects the candlelight and stuff that you see in the background. So Yeah.
Awesome. So straw in general is that kind of
That's for me, that's my go-to. It's funny. You'll ask all my gaffers, and I'm always, when I start talking about the key light, they're like, "Yeah, quarter straw." I'm like, "Yep, quarter straw."
and if you had to define what's just straw in general, what does that look? It's like a
So
bronze kind of a.
yeah, it's like CTO, except it's got a little bit of yellow in it. I mean, you have to be careful on skin tones because I mean, on African Americans it looks absolutely gorgeous. Caucasians looks great, but when you get to Asian skin tones, it sometimes is too yellow. Because they already have a little bit of a yellowish pigmentation. So you do have to be careful with what you're using on certain talent. So
Okay, wonderful. So quarter just is a little dab of it basically.
yeah, exactly. It's just a little bit, and if you need to pull it out in post, you pull it out in post. But
Okay,
I
great.
love the way that it looks. Steel green. This is another one that is just one of my favorite gels out there. I use it a lot for moonlight, and in this scenario, I used it to uplight the windows, and I used it on my China balls, which were my ambient light. And gaffers always love gelling up China balls.
And you brought those like just a little bit so that it's kind of again in those blacks kind of an idea.
Exactly, yeah.
Got it. I love that. Love that idea. Okay.
Yeah. And then I had a pale lavender, which when you saw the special effect transition of where the machine kicks up, but the room goes dark and then it starts to kick up, and you've got this portal that's opening up. Some of the concept drawings in pre-production were this purple portal, and it was this purple, demon coming out of this portal, and I talked to my gaffer, and we thought pale lavender would be a great choice. Pale being that we could use it also on the actors' faces, and it wouldn't make them look like Barney, but it would give this feel of of this source light that was lighting up. And I believe we also had a lavender light bulb that we used that was in the center of the machine. So it was actually a deeper lavender, but that's okay because mainly it was there to shed light on the machine itself, so that when they pulled out the light bulb in post and stuck the portal in, that you would have a little bit of a stronger sense. And when it's on background objects or just not faces, colored lights, use them super saturated if you want.
Yeah. And guys, we're gonna have a lot of stills soon, and you'll really be able to discuss. Oh, here we go. First one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you can see the quarter straw that I use kind of all around the room, and for me, it accents your practicals that are in the background. They kind of have that nice warm glow to them, and the yellow. I mean, I could have just used CTO or a quarter CTO, but I don't know. The straw just, for me, I love it on everything. But in this case, in this environment, it just kind of gives that. Just almost like older, just kind of an older. I don't want to say cyan, or not cyan, but what's the old school? Not black and white, but
I know what you're thinking about. It's like
yeah,
a filter that they use on photographs all the time, and all.
yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
don't know why I'm drawing a blank on it, but anyway, it gives you a hint in that direction. I mean, it's by far not that extreme, but I don't know. I just kind of like the antiqueness of it. And then and a lot of people use that for sunrises and sunsets and stuff too. Straws are a very popular
And are
one.
you doing this on to any of the key lights? Are any of the key lights?
Oh yeah,
This is on the key light, not just on the ambient kind of light that
yeah.
you're.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember exactly what I was keying these guys with. I think it was two 650s that were kind of cross keying. I was trying to keep it off their shoulders, but cross keying, one from the right side of frame and one from the left side of frame. And they both have probably some kind of opal diffusion on them with a little bit of quarter straw just to warm that skin tone up.
Right.
So
And it's kind of going a little bit more into lighting, but I think people will like these kind of tips. Did you feel that was enough for the scene, or did you have to also put it on some of your ambient to to get the whole room to have that kind of a feel?
no, I mean my ambient light still at this point is, I have a couple China balls rigged to the ceiling.
Hmm.
We'll see an overhead in just a minute here.
Okay.
It's funny. It's funny. Well, I'll explain it when we get
Okay. Great.
to the overhead. But those are they've got steel green on them. Um,
Okay.
so
Can't wait to see that.
yeah. So then so the up I was talking about the steel green being kind of uplit from the windows that are in the background, and it's funny. We actually tone these down in terms of the green. The director, when we were sitting in post, was like, "Oh, they feel a little too green to me." So it's one of those things where you're like, "Okay," and we turned it down. We pulled some of the green of it out in post, but as you can see, I got to light with, the gels that I wanted to, and you were still able to manipulate it a little bit in post. So you don't be afraid to put the gels on the lights. If you know that's your color palette, you can still kind of manipulate that if you want to.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well,
and
this has an amazing look to it. I mean, just look at this. I mean, it's so distinctive, right?
Yeah, well, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, I was going to say too, if you look at the characters, you can't really tell with the woman in the middle that's got her hands on. Well, they've all got their hands on the table, but if you look at the shoulders of the two gentlemen and then the older lady, I also have a couple of 650s, I believe, that are giving them that little bit of separation, and I'm using that steel green again,
Hmm.
just to give that kind of cool separation. Which, with using the cool on the outskirts and the warm on the inside, I feel like it kind of pulls you into the middle of the table a little bit.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's what I really noticed about the scene is those curtains and everything back there are clearly cooler. Everything is much cooler than what's going
yeah,
on with them.
yeah, and I'm not playing around with like some off the wall gel that doesn't match the environment or doesn't match what a light source might be. I try and match all those things to where
Right.
it feels like it's coming from somewhere.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, well, this
so
is clearly everything looks like you said motivated. I can imagine, what's going on, where this light is coming from, as opposed to, it's just out of nowhere.
yeah, exactly. And I mean that's what you have to do. You have to serve the scene. But you can serve it and you can do it with lots of color if you put the thought into it ahead of time.
This is a
Um,
gorgeous image. My goodness. I hope everybody understands what's going on here and the value that we're getting to have somebody who can produce images like this. Phil, I mean, this is amazing. Go ahead. Now I'm going to shut up
Thanks.
now and let you continue.
Uh, Thanks. I appreciate that. So once again, quarter straw. I used quarter straw on our actor here. I used it on the back of the machine here. You kind of look at the left side of the frame, and I'm backlighting the machine to separate it out from the wall. And a little bit of that spill is getting onto the wall, which is great
Beautiful.
because it gives us a little bit of separation right there. But one of the things I really want to point out is if you look at the gentleman's looking at this object that looks, I don't even know what it looks like. It looks like an upside down bell in the foreground here in the far right hand corner. And if you look at the back of that, that's where my steel green ambient light is working from my China balls. I know it keeps saying China balls, and I know that sounds funny, but but when I talk about infusing color into other parts of the frame that you normally wouldn't have if you were just your ambient light was clean, is I'm getting that nice green, that nice steel green that almost ties us in with the other side of the room, which I love being able to do. And you can feel it a little bit in his jacket and stuff too. But there's the steel green working in our ambient light.
And it's hitting. I didn't quite catch where the placement was, in like kind of the back right of the room.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, do
Gotcha.
you see right in front of the gentleman? He's looking down at something. It looks like a bell, but
Yeah.
it's upside down.
Oh,
So
yeah,
look,
yeah.
look in the back of that. If you look in the back of that, you see like a good amount of that steel green that's playing on the back
Hmm. Hmm.
of that bell right there. So, and you can feel it some in his jacket.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great.
which is nice. It just adds another layer, probably subconsciously, but it connects you. You know, it connects you to the other side of the room and to the environment the other people are in.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
So.
No, what's going on
We,
here?
yeah, we had we had our special effect once the lights went down and the machine fired up. We had this nice lavender come up, and if you look in the mirror, you're probably getting a lot of what that actual really deep purple or lavender light bulb was giving off. And then, but can you imagine if that was on her face?
My goodness.
So you so you have to be careful with the skin tones like we were talking about. So the pale lavender is what I ended up using on her face, which gave us the hint of that strong purple or that strong lavender that the machine's given off, but it's not giving it off so much that it makes her feel kooky, that she feels out of place. But you get the point that, that machine is the light source that's hitting her face.
Yeah.
And it still keeps skin tones pretty nice. So that's the one I wanted to show you on that one. And then same thing, opposite side of the room, just making that change over to where that nice pale lavender is saying, that the machine is fired up and there's a light source coming from it, but it's not killing his face and turning him into Barney like I was saying earlier.
Right, and you basically put that on which light? What light is creating that?
I believe that's a 300. I believe it's a Mo Richardson 300 or something. It's something small. I've got it, not too far away from him.
So everything else stayed the same. You just added that to the mix, or you took the key off.
Yeah, like if you like during the video, midway through the video, the entire room goes dark. Like the candles blow out. When the light source went out and it went completely dark. Well, as soon as the lights started to come back up, this portal was forming within the machine, which you saw, and that was our only light source now in the room.
Gotcha.
So we made that transition. We made that transition happen. I mean, of course, in edits and everything, and then of course a separate lighting setup. But yeah, so what initially earlier was my key light that had quarter straw on it, we've now switched out for the pale lavender. So
sweet. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So here's the overhead that I drew up before we did this shoot. And it's funny, I was holding on to it when you had mentioned bringing overheads that people enjoyed seeing those. I know an American cinematographer, whenever I get to see a lighting
diagram
by Roger Deakins or whatever, I geek out over it and I sit and stare at it for days. And I'm like, how does he get 60 12Ks,
Right.
But in saying that, it's funny. If you look, I have these China balls that I'm using as ambient light. And it's funny, I don't know about you, but I go on a scout, and when I go home and my imagination starts to run wild, the location ends up tripling in size.
Right, exactly.
In my mind. And then when I get back to the location, I'm like, oh, wow, we're shooting in a shoebox.
Yeah, right.
So I think I've got 5 China balls in this room, and I ended up using 2. But it's so funny because you're just like, oh, well, I'm gonna need it because it's a football field we're trying to light.
Right. I've gotten to the point where even once in a while I'll measure the room. I'll know it's a 15-foot across or whatever it is.
Oh, but you know what? 15 feet in my imagination still ends up being 50.
Right. That's true.
So anyway, so I ended up using, I believe, a China ball. I think it was the second China ball. And I ended up using, I think I ended up using the number 3 and the number 2, I believe. And they both had steel green on them. And of course, my reference, like we were talking about earlier, was tungsten in this scene. Because I knew I was going to be working with, flames, which were on the candles, and you can't really gel those up.
Yeah.
You know,
Not really.
and then I was working with a couple of practicals right here, and then of course the practical that was actually on the machine next to the old gentleman sitting there.
Hmm.
So tungsten was my reference, and ended up being my supplemental lights too. I ended up using tungsten. Um, so yeah, so I had a couple of 2Ks outside the window, which I gelled up with the steel crane. And you know what's funny is because I think my ISO was 800, 2Ks were definitely overkill.
Hmm.
I could have used something smaller. We ended up scrimming them down quite a bit. But once again, I was lighting a football field. So,
Now, everybody, we're here at the Big League Cine Summit. We are pro animals, so we're very happy to have the little kitty with us. We're not bothered by it. We're gonna move right along.
oh,
It's
that's
all right.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes, it's funny. She loves meowing to try and get into the room. And if I wasn't recording with you, I'd chase her around and
Well,
get her
I'll
to
tell
be
you, the
quiet.
beauty of this is that we can bring somebody like you that's across the country for a lot of people, or across the world for others, on to teach us. So a little kitten in the background is more than welcome. Okay, moving along.
Cool. um, so anyway, and you can see down in here, not that this has anything to do with what we're talking about, but I knew my camera would never be positioned here. So this was my safe corner in terms of all the distribution and stuff I had to run.
Hmm.
But you'll see the opening scene. We were pushing down the hallway. Didn't use two China balls. Ended up just using one. But ended up doing steel green on that, and then came through that little side window with steel green, which actually doesn't look too much like steel green, because we ended up once again the director in post was just kind of like, oh, it's a little too much green for me, which you always got to do what the director wants. I mean, that's what we're here for, right? To serve the director.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that kind of gives you a general idea. We ended up on the sides here, which you don't see. We ended up doing the 300s, or 650s. I think they were 650s, in order to key our actors with a little cross key action here.
Hmm.
And then, of course, our couple of backlights back here, we ended up putting steel green on. So,
I think
yes.
a takeaway that I want a lot of people to notice, for a lot of people this is obvious, but for others maybe not, is notice how many lights are outside, shooting in from the windows. I think a lot of people automatically try to put their lights sometimes inside. They don't realize that, outdoors you got the window that'll already cut, just angle it just the way you want so that it's not everywhere, and
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, and it's funny. A lot of times, my gaffers and key grips are like, "You want to put them where?" Because it's usually like a tree in the way, and then like,
All right.
and we were shooting during the daytime here too. So this window here, this was a huge alleyway. So luckily, there's a building that's really close, but we ended up having to tint this window and then fire a light through it, so that I had to get rid of all the daylight and all the light that was coming through, and then recreate the light that I wanted to come through.
So tint in order to get it back to like we said in the beginning, to get it to be tungsten basically,
No,
to
no.
match.
Well, yeah, yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's exactly right. So we didn't want daylight leaking in this window.
Yeah.
So we just created a tent, out of duvetine and 4x4 floppies. And I think this was like a second story by this point too. So we had a lot of rigging to do in order to make that to where like it was just my tungsten light that was blowing through and giving us the light we wanted. So.
Got it. Got it. Do you have to see, what do you put on there? CTO on the tint? Is that what you're doing, or just something completely different?
Oh no, I
Or,
mean, well, the tent itself is just
or just
it's
knocking
just
down the?
it's just a barricade for the light. So
Oh, yeah, yeah,
basically,
yeah, yeah.
we're basically just making it nighttime
I
outside,
understand. Okay, yeah,
and then
yeah.
and then we're sticking a light up in that tent, and
I, I
and
hear
now
you.
we're back, to zero again.
Gotcha, gotcha,
We've
gotcha.
got our supplemental source, which we were talking about earlier, matching what our base is,
Yeah, right, right, right.
and then
I
you can
think
just
I think. Did you say tent or tint?
A tent.
Tent with an.
I'm originally from Georgia, so
That's
I
it.
kind of
That's what it is.
I elongate my words sometimes, so I
Yeah, yeah.
apologize. But
I
a
didn't.
tent, kind of like
Right,
you
right.
sleep in when you go
Yeah,
camping.
right. Yeah, like you said. So you're basically making it nighttime, and then there's no light
Yeah,
coming in from the sun, and then yeah, got it.
exactly.
Okay, moving on. I heard tint.
So yeah, so I think we've killed that diagram. These are just a few behind the scenes pictures. You can see right in here. Definitely, I did go pretty green with it. I mean, this isn't, but I love it. And I'm happy the way that it turned out. I'll go a little overboard sometimes, and a director's like, hey, and I'm like, okay, rein me in, which I'm totally cool with, because he or she ultimately knows, what we're gonna get in the end. And
Yeah.
this is actually the director right here, Timothy Plain. Great director. I had a really good time with him. And this is something that I thought was fun. This was a light source for when you see the spirit flying around the room. He's flying around the chandelier and everything. We wanted to add a practical light effect to that, so that they didn't have to do it all in post. And anything practical is always going to look, I think, better. So anyway, the light that you see kind of going across some of the faces of the actors, and then this white light that's going across the chandelier is actually coming from this source that we had this guy waving around as if he was the spirit flying around. So,
Phil,
and
take us through some of these fixtures that you're using, maybe even on the last photo as well. And I know I'm veering a little bit, but I want everybody who's on right now to really get as much as possible out of this. Now
yeah,
that we have you, and there's so much to learn from which lights you're using, and
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, they're basic. I mean, that's they're nothing too special. Kind of cheaper lights. This is a 650 right here that we have the steel grate on, and this is giving her a nice backlight. This was kind of a special, like, little light that a guy uses with, like, this kind of like Chimera type diaper thing. It was brand new. He had just broke it out of the box. And we were like, hey, pull the Chimera off of it, and we'll use it just as our only white light source in the room, which represented the spirit. I think at this point, this is when a lot of the stuff went lavender, as you can see with the gel here in the foreground beside me.
Right.
And if I had to guess, I think we were using probably a 1K through that. I don't think it was anything big.
And real quick on the slide before, there was a couple. Sorry to take you back.
Yeah, no worries. I believe this was either a 300 or a 650. So not much. It probably was a 300, and then I probably needed a 650 because I could have used a slight bit more separation. Although I really like how dark it goes. So,
and pretty much any 350 kind of a fixture will do the trick. I mean, a tungsten.
yeah, I mean, light is light. I mean, the only time that you get into funky stuff is when you have older bulbs, and that ends up warming up your light source. And with a 300 or 650, you're already not getting a ton of output.
Yeah.
So trying to gel up to cool that light back down to get it where you want it, and then you're throwing colored gels on it, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it.
And when you say light is light, correct me if I'm wrong, but would you say that that's true for tungsten? When you get into the fluorescence like Kinos and whatnot, and especially LEDs, then it's really like night and day between company to company on their color accuracies. And
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I've been in. And that's ultimately that's kind of the cinematographer's responsibility, that and the gaffer's responsibility to find what companies, if a Kino is going to have more magenta in it, or it's going to have more green in it, or whatever. It's knowing your fixtures, and then knowing how to correct, or knowing how to use those in the environment. But you're right. Yeah. When I say light is light, I mean, light is light when you get it to zero.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Okay,
you know what
great.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So, and getting it to zero is just kind of your responsibility as a cinematographer to just know what companies, and what light fixtures are going to give you stuff. I mean, sometimes you get stuck with a truck with, like I was saying, older lights, and, it's, they end up being a little bit warmer than you want them to be or something. But,
Right, right. Okay, let
um,
me let you go ahead. I got you stuck on
yeah.
that too
Oh,
long.
no worries. Yeah, yeah. um, so anyway, this is just us again. This was in our environment where we had quarter straw. It was kind of our regular environment that we started out the film at, and this is just quarter straw. I'm guessing a little bit of opal or 250 or something. And same thing back here. Was just a little bit of a warmer light.
Yeah,
I just wanted some of that ambient green light to just kind of soak into some of the darker areas and stuff, which you can't even really see. You might even be able to see a little bit of it up in here.
yeah.
Um,
Sweet. Yeah, I like
yep,
that. And then that flag is really telling a lot. Just keeping it off the background. That's important.
yep,
Yeah.
completely. Because we wanted it to feel this. We wanted to feel like it was coming from this.
Uh
And
huh.
a lot of times people will uplight or whatever, but I think that's kind of a personal choice.
Uh huh.
I felt like from the way that we were shooting it, that this angle totally sold this light.
Yeah, yeah. Wonderful.
Yep. And okay, so that was that piece. We're going to do one more piece here. This is a commercial I shot for Square, and this is something I shot with a director by the name of Adam Patch. I work with Adam quite a bit, and he is a fantastic director.
Yeah, and I love that you brought this piece in because it's more of the commercial kind of a look, and there's which is probably a bulk of what a lot of people are shooting. What they get every day as opposed to the narrative.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, so let's
Cool.
take a look at this and then we'll break it down as well.
Sounds good.
Juliet cuts hair. Henry fixes cars. Ernest designs clothes. And what do they have in common? They all use Square to accept credit card payments from anyone, anywhere.
I love it. I really, really love using Square. I just plug it into my phone, I swipe your card. It is really simple.
Square works with your iPhone or Android.
It was really just so easy and so fast. Literally, it took us 2 minutes to sign up online, and we had our reader in the mail the next day.
The Square card reader is free and easy to use.
The contract was great. It was about 0 pages long. There's no contract. There's no monthly fees. There's no equipment fee. It's really easy.
It's just 2.75% per swipe for all major credit cards.
My money is in my bank account in no time at all.
They send you an email when they send you a deposit. It's great.
Square has changed my business completely.
I almost can't imagine our business without it.
It's awesome.
Start accepting credit cards today. Get your free credit card reader at square.com.
So that was a commercial that I shot, and like I was saying before, being able to, a lot of what you're seeing here is in the foreground is white, but where we got really creative was the background. And one of the things that my lighting sources played off of was what the production designer brought in. So I'll start to point out a few things. Actually, let's see. Nope. Let's go back down. So in the background here, the production designer had these nice yellow drapes, and then they were playing with these kind of pinkish type things, these pinkish drapes here, and you see he did a really good job of balancing out the frame with his production design and in terms of having a set color palette. So when I am in an environment like this, I play off of that. And if you'll see on the ground here, this is like a canary yellow that we hit the ground with, which was great. They, I think, took the back off of this shelf for us and ended up, we put diffusion on it. And then fired in a magenta gel, whatever light source we were using. We put magenta gel on it so that it would kind of complement kind of the pinks that you find in the environment. So even something that may seem like, oh, I've got to light this with white light because that's that's what the client's going to want, or that's what the director's going to want, you're still able to play around with light even in these environments to add something. I think it definitely adds something.
It's adding a lot of depth, which, in other words, I'm trying to picture taking that yellow off of that floor, and then it would have just been a very boring kind of a gray all the way through at the bottom there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's a huge. I was thinking to myself, there's already so much color in this shot, like you said with the production design, that all you have to do is just light it accurately, and then there's all your colors. But look at all this addition, and it really does make it pop even more.
yeah, which is great. And so same thing with this guy. I it's funny. Adam is kind of teasing me. He's like, you should be, it looks like you're lighting CSI Miami.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know of a mechanic shop that like. And I'm like, but the beauty is Adam. Adam knows I love what I do, and he gives me a certain amount of creative freedom to experiment and to show him what we've got. And once we got everything up, he loved it.
And it
Which is
works
great.
with the spot, which I think is the key here. You know what you're doing. You understand what the context, and the context here is obviously this is a very cool commercial, a cool application or a product. So
Yeah.
it works. It's not like it has to be boring. It's supposed to be I don't know. So what I'm looking for here, like progressive.
Yeah, a little flashy. It adds a
Flashy.
little
Yeah,
flash
yeah.
to it, yeah. But in this case, I ended up using a steel green, or no, a steel blue actually. I like my steels.
Yeah.
I'm using a steel blue, which is nice, gives you that kind of little spot on the floor, kind of like the yellow canary did in the beautician shop.
Yeah.
Gives you a little bit of separation on the motor there. And then I ended up using a medium blue green on a Kino that was actually, if you look right here, I believe that was the original door to the beautician shop. So I thought, well, why not? Why don't I use that door as a practical? So I stuck a Kino back there and ended up putting a medium blue green. It's funny, I originally went with another steel blue. And Adam's looking at the monitor. He goes, I don't know. It seems a little too rich. He goes, what else you got? So I was like, well, I got this, So like I threw something else on it. He's like, okay, I like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes, those creative choices that you make, aren't always, logical, because I would have normally had this match this, and they're not too far off from each other. But the director liked that, so that's the one we went with.
And I want to point out something that you just said that he said to you, which I think is a huge, there's a gem in there. He says, "What else do you got?" In other words, you need to have like a palette, like you were saying with the paint. You got to have a whole spread and start and play.
You do. Make sure you carry your box of crayons with you.
Exactly.
Because you never know. When a director or a production designer or producer is going to say, "Hey, what else you got?"
Right.
And I have all my favorites. So, like, I don't carry anything that I don't like. So, I'm going to like pretty much anything I get to throw up as long as the color combination works.
Gotcha.
And you'll see, like, in the foreground here, we've got the quarter straw going again because that's just my go-to. I love quarter straw. If you see, like, on the ground here and on the tables and stuff, and our actors in this situation, because of the environment we were in, were like, oh, this is clean, this is white, this is the way that it's going to be, in terms of just nice commercial clean. But fortunately, we got to really play around within the squares.
What I'm just curious, when you shoot something this clean commercial, what are you keying with? Are you keying with tungsten still?
Oh, yeah. We were keying with tungsten. I mean, I knew I was going to be dealing with tungsten practicals and stuff, and it made the budget go down. So we were going to be inside the whole time. So why not, So I think I have a 5K blowing through, I think, a 12 by of, I want to say it was half grid, and that's on the right side. And then I had, I think, a 2K slamming it. It was I think it was a 2K slamming into a 12 by of bleached muslin, which gives a really nice, it's so beautiful. And I knew I didn't need as much on my fill side. So I just had the smaller unit kind of slamming into that guy. So.
And are you gelling that? Are you matching that with the fluorescence in the back?
With these guys right here? Or?
Yeah, no, I'm just wondering if you're putting anything to cool them off, the tungstens.
No, not at all. I mean, because my whole base, all my supplemental lights, my base, which the practicals for me kind of dictate the base in this instance, because they're going to be 3200 tungsten. So everything's 3200.
Gotcha. I don't know why I
Yeah.
thought those guys in the back were
Well,
cooler.
you're probably just thinking about it because of the steel blue and the medium blue green that I used.
Yeah, that could be what it did it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And this isn't, and of course, which I'm sure it's obvious, but I'll go ahead and state it. This isn't,
Right.
this is just a backdrop back here, so we're not dealing with actual daylight.
Right. Right. Yeah, we're indoors in the set. Yeah.
Not to confuse anybody who's going, hey,
Yeah. Right.
So, so this was the most boring one of the piece. That is all white light back there. But sometimes you got to go all white light.
Yeah.
So once again, just the magenta and a little bit of yellow there, which we went through. But anyway,
Yeah.
magenta Lee 113 was what I used on that shelf. The canary yellow was what I used to match the drapes and everything. That was that kind of splash of light you saw on the floor. And then in this one, once again, the medium blue-green, which was coming through the Kino there. My quarter straw, which gives just that nice little bit of extra yellow-orange, and then a nice steel blue. And what we're coming up on here, I was pretty excited to, let me go through quarter straw, steel blue, and medium blue-green. And then quarter CTB, this is the one that I wanted to talk to you guys about, because there is an interaction that happens between him and a customer. And as it's backlighting him, you can kind of see what it starts to do with skin tones. But because it's kind of a sidey backlight, that kind of backlight that we were talking about earlier, that you can be a little bit more saturated with. Since we're not seeing his full face, it was like, okay, no big deal. I mean, that's pretty blue.
Yeah.
That's pretty blue. But what I do when we turn around on him is you go, oh, well, where'd that blue light go? Well, this is when I took and knocked the blue light, the steel blue that I was using, and I switched it out. Actually, the steel blue is still hitting his shirt. And then I took and cut off. I got to cut his head off.
Yeah.
And then above it, used another light source and used quarter blue on it. So now you're using something that's much more subtle, but still gives you a hint of that coolness that we felt from that steel blue, but it's not distorting his skin tones. So blue. I don't know why that excites me, but it excites me just because you're getting to manipulate things that people they have no clue, and it's great. I don't know. I guess I'm just film geeking out over here. So anyway, and then your background here, of course, is that quarter straw, which I use on everything.
I was very surprised, though, on the quarter straw that you used on him on one of the first images. If you go back a couple of him right before this, on that, I was surprised that it still looked very commercial and didn't have the look at all, obviously, of the narrative film, which also used the quarter straw.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of funny. I mean, look at this, and then you compare it to what their skin tones are, and it's really not that far off. If you look at this, and then you look at the skin tones of the people in there, and it's really not. It's about the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear it because you're dealing with so much more cooler light in this environment, and it's brighter. But yeah, it still exists there.
Okay, awesome. Let's check. Let's move forward. Sorry, I brought you backwards a little bit.
No, not at all. And that's it. I love coloring. I show up to work with a box of crayons, and I get to color the scenes. And I one of my gaffers is he's like, he's like, Phil, you color, you use more colored gels than anybody I know, any other DPs I work with, and I'm proud of that. It's fun,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Awesome.
yeah. So, and like I said, if it doesn't look right, then change it. It's the easiest thing to pull a gel on and off of a light. So,
Yeah. This was sweet. I mean, really jam packed. My goodness, I don't know how long we went, but I think I'm sure it's very full. But I want to just sum up I think for me the huge takeaway is that our films don't have to look just even and boring. This is your chance to make things. Let's just call it what it is. People want things to look cinematic. That's what we're always trying to chase, that kind of cinematic look. And that first piece, is very clear. And even the commercial pieces, everything pops and everything has life to it, as opposed to just being plain and even. And you're doing it with color, and it's just as important to do it, obviously, with the contrast ratios in lighting. We didn't focus on that today, but to see how you were able to do it with colors and gels is a huge takeaway. And I hope everybody understands its power.
yeah, no, thanks for having me on, and I hope I hope I wasn't too long-winded. I really wanted to make the point that once you get to zero, break out the crayons.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, Phil, thanks for coming on. And everybody, I end almost every one of the sessions the same way. Go out there and practice. But let me just tell you that this one I think is going to go down as one of the greats, because there's so much practical stuff for everybody to implement. And if you're not doing some of this, I'm sure you're going to start after this great presentation. So we'll see you at the next presentation, and go out there and do your thing.